Switchblade springs into action. It's Amigos, episode 301. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about Switchblade.
Oh, you mean one of these? Bam! Look at that.
Oh, wow.
I got
That's a
one,
legit
dude.
One.
Yeah.
Now, when you were in high school, did you ever bring that to school to flash it around at your friends?
I didn't have it in high school. This was a gift from a chick that I was sort of seeing, a long time ago. And this is the kind of relationship we had. She would give me a Switchblade. So I think I gave her some butterfly knives, so it worked out.
Oh, I'm surprised you didn't give her some throwing stars.
Well, we both had
your
those.
personal collection.
Listen,
yeah,
you can't,
that's true.
no.
She might already had some.
It wasn't love boat. It was like. You don't get free. You don't get the personal collection. My throwing cards, all that stuff. That's not going nowhere, man.
Your glaive.
That's man. If I had a glaive, if I gave a woman a glaive, that'd be the ultimate love right there.
What year anniversary gift is that?
That's like the 100th anniversary. You get a glaive. That would almost make it worth it.
Yeah. Now, did you ever have in your possession a Switchblade comb?
Oh yeah, of course. And you could take that one to school. Of course, we took stuff like this to school all the time. Knives and stuff weren't as big a deal back when I was a kid. Like, everyone had them. Like, all the Cub Scouts had them. Boy Scouts had them. People took knives to school. People took throwing stars to school. Like, no one cared. I mean, at all. In fact, guns, they always said lock it in your trunk if you took one of those to school. That happened a bunch of times. Right. Now, was it right? No. And I don't necessarily feel comfortable with a bunch of knives and guns at the school, but, I mean, no one got brutally stabbed or murdered, so I guess we got away with it.
I remember seeing, I'm not that much younger than you.
You got that right.
I do remember people having knives, but the one kid I remember getting in trouble was when he brought out the butterfly knife. And he was doing the thing that you do with a butterfly knife, and the administration was not happy with that.
Listen, that instantly ups your cool guy cred if you could do that. If you could go like, I mean, I've got one somewhere in the pad here. I don't have it handy, but I can sort of do it. But I mean, that is cool.
That doesn't seem like the sort of skill you want to be able to sort of do.
Well. Listen, I can sort of spin the chucks too, but with hilarious results. You know, you're right. You're dead on. It's not something you sort of want to do. But listen, when I was growing up, because you had the ninja craze and all that stuff. Plus, you're out here in West Virginia. A lot of people had buck knives and stuff. And I would guarantee you, most people's grandparents were always. My grandpa had a big old knife stuck in his boot. And my dad always carries a big old knife, so it's the way things are back in the day.
Yeah. It was a different world back then.
Yeah.
I remember getting my Switchblade comb at Camden Park.
Yeah. That's a carnival favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had that for many a year. Unfortunately, I've thrown all my combs away. My days as a comb owner are over.
Yeah. Did you ever know anyone that took one of those combs and actually made a knife out of it?
No,
that was because you could, the comb part, you could slide that out of there, and what you've got effectively is a part of a metal like a sheath, and you could just sort of slide stuff in there if it was the right size. I saw a guy do that at school one time, because he wanted to be Joe Cool because he had an actual switchblade. But I mean, that's lame. The switchblade.
I'd probably take a Wendy's knife and slide it in there.
Well, he probably did cut up a butter knife or something and put it in there, But the switchblade comb was like for people that wanted to look cool, and then there was just enough of a question: is it a comb? Is it a knife? You can kind of get away with it. You can just hold it up and go,
I kind of felt that way whenever I would be a kid, and I would find a store that sold root beer in a dark bottle.
Yeah. It was an IBC root beer or whatever.
IBC,
yeah.
That's right.
It felt like
I'd be traipsing around the Hurricane Baseball League field, kind of taking swigs and looking to my left, looking to my right, just to see who was watching.
Like anyone cared. I was the same way. Listen, we had those candy cigarettes. It was the exact same thing. Exactly. Some of them would actually blow the powder and sugar out the front.
You can still buy those in certain places in West Virginia.
Yeah, oh yeah. But I mean,
when I was out Lesage, I saw them all over the place.
Oh yeah. And what a great gift, by the way, for your. But
for your young one.
The old ones that you could get. they looked just like cigarettes. They were, I mean, they were the same color and everything. And then you could blow in them, and like the first puff you took would shoot like a fog of sugar.
It was like the Grand Moolah or whatever that wrestler was.
Muta.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, after that, the fun was over because you only got one puff out of a candy cigarette.
Yeah, and also there's the slight incident that kids who get into candy cigarettes might get into real cigarettes, and then you got
That's true. That's true.
I mean,
I
not
always
a good
thought
idea.
the candy cigarette was highly derivative of the classic bubble pipe.
Yeah.
You can't beat a good bubble pipe.
Yeah, I mean, why don't they, if they have candy cigarettes, why don't they have like Kool-Aid in a booze bottle? You know, let's just go ahead
Well, they
and go.
kind of do.
Let's go the full route, or some sort of gummy, like a gummy doobie that you can give. Why are we stopping here? They've got Tic Tacs that look like little pills.
Well,
it's like
we
a whole
joke about
slate of
this,
stuff.
but in Colorado, there's tons and tons of kids that get sick all the time because their parents leave out edibles, which are now legal there, and the kids go to town thinking that they're just normal brownies or whatever. And we're living in the world. We're living in the present.
I can tell you firsthand that if you grabbed a big, huge bushel of brownies that you thought were normal and they weren't, that could cause you a major problem. I can tell you that firsthand.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, I feel like we've wandered afield here from our chosen topic.
What, we're not talking about drugs for kids today?
Gummy Doobies Weekly is the show after this one. Instead, we're gonna dive right in, Aaron. It's been crazy because we were off last week for episode 300.
Oh yeah,
we didn't do a normal show, so the news has been piling up.
Yes, it has.
Let's go ahead and dive right into this week's Amiga news.
Amiga news.
All right, Aaron. We're going to start here with a video from Doug, the 10-minute Amiga Retrocast. He has a new video talking about a game that he actually purchased for us. He's a very generous guy, Doug. He bought Turbo Sprint for you and I.
Oh, thank you,
I
Doug.
have actually had a chance to fire this up, but I've not watched Doug's review. Did you get a chance to watch this? This one's featuring his son, Daniel.
Yeah, I did see. I just saw a little bit of this, but I mean, I looked at some of the game footage. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I will say that there are still some weird sort of controller issues you've got to suss out. I had to unplug all of my devices from the emulator and then swap ports around. And even still, I felt like I still didn't have a handle on exactly what I was doing as far as the controls. But graphically, this game looks great. I mean, it's dead on for the arcade version. And, there's the same like huge number of tracks that you always have. Of course, the 4-player option. All that stuff is great. So we thank Doug for playing this, and I'm sure you're going to play it real soon, Aaron.
Yeah, I can't wait to try this. And I will say, I like Doug's kid's shirt. Good-looking shirt. Good-looking fella.
That's an awesome shirt.
Yeah, well done. He's getting into the family business, Boat. I like that.
I'm sure that's the plan. That's the plan. We're going to have the 5-minute Amiga Retrocast starring Daniel, just the junior version, coming soon.
I love it.
All right, Aaron, this is just going to be one of many posts about all of the new sort of accelerator news that's coming out for the Amiga. There's never been a better time to buy a low-cost accelerator for your Amiga. And we start with the Buffy. Now, what's cool about this is that I guess Steven from the Terrible Fire project, this is a very well-known accelerator maker.
Oh yeah,
he's announced that the Terrible Fire organization is going to somehow team up with the Buffy team, and this new card will allow the Buffy 68030 3.2 speed to pump up and work in any Amiga 1200.
Very nice. Yeah,
it's going to add RAM, IDE support, DMA support. And Steven is going to be giving away 100 of these to any registered Buffy owner. So
pretty good
this
deal
is
there,
the Buffy project has been really going. I'm reading this off the Amatopia website. If you guys, this is one of the many great Amiga news websites out there. It looks like the very first batch of beta cards of the Buffy 512 RAM version have been shipped to interested people around the globe. So this thing is selling like hotcakes. It's going to be interesting as these things start to filter into the hands of the users, if it lives up to all the promises and if it's everything it's cracked up to be. And hopefully it will be, man.
It's good to see Steven come back into the fold after because if we covered his unceremonious exit a while back, where he had gotten fed up with some crapiola. So I'm glad to see him back in the game, because the Terrible Fire, of course, is quite popular, as you know.
Yes.
And the fact that he's working with the Buffy crew and cranking out, this is nothing but good news. I like, boy, as a cheapskate, we're living in a glorious present here for cheapo acceleration. And this thing looks solid. Everything I've heard about it says it's awesome. So it should be good stuff, Boatster.
Absolutely. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that.
Oh, yeah.
Up next, Aaron, there's a very exciting software release. It is the 25th anniversary of probably my favorite point-and-click adventure game on the Amiga, Flight of the Amazon Queen. I loved everything about this. I thought the graphics were amazing. I thought the story was hilarious. And apparently lots of other people like this thing too, because they've brought it. It's back on Steam right now, the 25th anniversary edition. Now, what does the 25th anniversary edition give you? Well, it gives you a new UI, new gameplay controls that were built from the ground up. You've got hotspot based pointing and clicking, like you want in all modern adventure games. So you're not just clicking on every single pixel, acting, making sure that you found everything.
Yeah.
There's completely new game menus and a save load system. There's even cloud sync saving in this. You've got options for the different sorts of sound card emulation. Lots of awesome stuff included. And get this, Aaron, this can be yours. It's on sale right now until May 24th. You can get this for $169.
Holy smokes! Have you already bought this, boat?
I'm going to buy it as soon as we're done. As soon as this show's over, and I can't pass this up.
I'm the one that actually for once, I got the scoop on something. I shared this on the news area because I was like, this boat's got to know. And so, we both really dug this game. Came out of nowhere, as you know. And so it's good to see that it's back, because this is one of those under the radar sort of games, I think. And so it's back, and it's open to a whole new audience. And so I think that's outstanding. It's good to know that it's probably going to get a lot more attention, maybe more than it's ever gotten. So I think that's awesome. And the price, are you kidding me? Pick it up.
Absolutely.
If you're into it.
Okay, speaking of game news, we have a new-found, unfinished game that's been rediscovered for the Amiga 500. This is a game called Blork.
I thought that said Bjork at first. I was like, are you kidding
me?
The
Amiga has got to be the king of horrible names for games.
We don't like
There's
Blork?
never been a system that's just had so many awful names. I don't know if it's maybe it's something is lost in translation, but if you're calling your game Blork, change your name. That's all I'm saying.
Blork, Boat. Come on, get
with
it.
This is a sideways shooter. It looks really, really great. Very fast moving. Lots of different enemies and stuff.
Man,
looks like a good power up system.
Yeah.
Apparently, this game was developed as a first project on the Amiga 500 before the Amiga market began to disappear. So this was obviously as time sort of went on into the mid 90s, people could read the writing on the wall in terms of where the Amiga was heading. And I'm sure that this was not the only game that got halted in the midst of production. And
is this playable,
but luckily,
Boat?
it's playable. There's a download link right on the Indie Retro News site.
Oh.
We thank Indie Retro News for once again getting the scoop on all of these events. And you've also got, of course, the Saberman video to check out too.
Look at that. That actually looks real good, doesn't it, Boat?
It looks great.
Oh,
Maybe we'll get a chance to play that one day.
Yeah, put it on the list, boys.
Yeah. All right. Doug's back. Doug's pulling double duty on the Amiga News segment this week. He has got the scoop on the Amiga OS 3.2 release. This is probably the biggest story of the week, I would say. People have been waiting for a long time for this release, and it's finally happened. Now, Aaron, what can you tell us about 3.2?
Well, listen, if you want I can't tell you jack squat. I'll watch this video and just watch this and let Doug tell you, because Doug goes into vivid detail in this. I know there's a larger drive support, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a quick rundown of the new features. So there's you've got your usual plethora of updates and bug fixes. Some of the highlights include there's a reaction GUI toolkit integration. You've got an integrated help subsystem, so that's actually really nice. So you don't have to refer to any sort of paper manual anymore. All the help is in there. You've got improved tools, utilities, and system applications. There's also hardware integration updates. So you can actually use your mouse wheel to scroll through Workbench windows. How crazy is that, Aaron?
That's outstanding. Yeah, I do like that.
And best of all, if you already upgraded your physical Kickstart ROMs to run 3.1.4, they also work with 3.2. So you only need to buy the software.
Oh, that's great news, Boat. I know that software is starting to spring up. I know pre-orders were out.
In fact, why don't we just dive right in, Aaron? Why don't you load up old RetroRewind.ca, and we'll go ahead and do our plug for the new Amiga hardware and software pick of the week, Amiga OS 3.2. This thing is available for pre-order for the low price of $50, all the way at the bottom of the page, or you can go that way maybe.
Keep talking, I'll find it.
See, okay, so there's you got basically $50 gets you unlimited licenses for Amigas that you own. Okay. Now, in addition to buying the software, if you need to order a physical Kickstart ROM for each of your Amigas, you can do so. Each one is $10 a piece, and it's available for the 500 all the way up through the 4000T, the CD, TV, whatever. And then you can also, if you want the actual floppy disk set, instead of just getting the ADFs through the email or through the purchase in digital edition, you can actually order the physical discs for $12. So this is for all of the upgrades and features that you get out of this. I think this is well worth the purchase price. I mean, it's basically giving your classic Amiga a new lease on life in terms of usability.
Yeah.
This comes to us, of course, from Hyperion Entertainment. And, you can order it from all the usual places, but we think you should order it from RetroRewind.ca because they support this show. They're a great partner in the Amiga community. They really care about what's going on, and all of their offerings are great. But guess what, fair listener? You can actually save some money ordering through Retro Rewind. If you use the promo code Amigos Spring Fun at checkout, you can save 10% off this or anything from the shop over at Retro Rewind. So make sure you use that promo code and check out OS 3.2. It's probably going to be good.
It's very exciting, Bode, that this came out. Now, I don't know about everyone else, but I didn't see it coming. I hadn't heard anything about this, to be honest with you. Maybe they kept it on the download. Maybe I just don't run in the right circles. I don't know. According to what Frank's site here says, that this is going to be, it says right now it's in pre-order, expected shipping date June 14th. I've seen Frank's preparations. He's feverishly prepping to start cranking this thing out as soon as it's available to sell. And I agree with you. If you're going to buy one, especially if you're in North America, Retro Rewind is the way to go. And Frank just informed us next week, he says. So next week, it looks like it's going to be the time to ship. He says they're way ahead of schedule.
Well, that's the way to do it. You set the expectation low. You're like, yeah, it's going to be available in 2 to 3 years. And then the next day you're like, just kidding. It's today. And then everybody's happy.
It worked for the Sega Saturn, right?
right. What could go wrong?
Exactly.
All right.
Love it.
We move on, Aaron. This is another. You've been the news hound this week, Aaron, because right. You pointed this out to me a little bit earlier today. The MSX2 Classic and NES Classic Metal Gear has been released for the Amiga 500. Now, as everybody who's into this franchise knows, the MSX version is way, way better than the NES version of Metal Gear. There are lots of things I think were taken out because of space requirements and things like that in the NES version. So this is the version of the game that you want to play, the MSX version. And by that, I mean you can actually now play it on the Amiga. So pretty awesome. This was a game that I played a lot. This is one of the games that my mom picked up at a yard sale, and I just had, and I'd stick it in there every once in a while and play it. And I never really got very far because I was never sure what to do. But I still had fun. You walk around, you sneak around, you punch guys, you fall down pits, you die, you smoke cigarettes, you do all the things that tough guys do.
I'm reading this, and this really is. Now listen. This is a big day because right now you're looking at the #1 way to play Metal Gear, okay?
Yeah.
It's not the MSX2. If you read this here, this has been converted to run at full frame rate with no slowdowns, unlike the MSX2. It's also the translations based on the European translation, which is closer to the Japanese translation than the translation that got put on the NES.
Oh, okay.
And also, it's got enhanced sound options for the Amiga. So this is a huge deal.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I think this is a Hoffman. It is Hoffman's that did this one, and enough said. So
yeah,
man,
he's got the touch.
Normally when these sorts of games come out, I'm like, hey, whatever. I actually played Metal Gear with my brother. Believe it or not, we teamed up, Boat. A rare team up back in the day, and I liked this game. I mean, I thought it was kind of real different from the usual fare. So I'm excited, and I'm looking here at what this requires. It says here it will run on any Amiga with 512 chip and a 512 other. So that's pretty much everything but a 1000, and you're covered if you've got a little bit of extra memory. He's got everything. They thought of everything, folks. So this is one you're going to want to pick up straight away. You can download it right now. It's ready. It's ready to go, Boat. So I would urge you to take something tells me, Boat, we're going to be covering this one sooner than later, my friend.
Oh yeah.
And that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be an interesting go. So there you go, Boat.
All right.
I'm excited about that one.
Now our next story comes from the one, the only RMC, Neil, over in the cave. He too has taken a look at the Pi Storm. The Pi Storm has generated quite a buzz on the old internet community because of all of the things that it promises, and at the price point that really can't be beat. Neil puts this thing through its paces. He basically, he didn't have some of the same problems that Dan had with the Pi Storm in terms of capabilities and things like that. It seemed like he had a pretty nice time with it. Of course, the speed is just incredible. He was basically able to get in and out the door for under $50 or 50 pounds, the price of the Pi plus the price of the Pi Storm. So this is just another example of, we're living in a golden age of low cost Amiga accelerators. There's a different solution out there for every Amiga fan. You just have to find the one that works for you.
I enjoyed Neil's video. Of course, I always do. Neil does a great job. And I did ask him about the problems that Dan ran into. Dan also did a great video on the Pi Storm, and RMC told me that he did not try. He's got a Gotek and it doesn't have a proper floppy in there, but he says he did run into any trouble, but he hasn't tried lemons specifically, which is one of the things that Dan had trouble with. So there's still room for testing, but the funny thing about it
Boy,
is,
look at that Frontier 2
oh yeah,
intro.
it's funny. Everyone runs this.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, this thing is being the Pi Storm is being updated so quickly that it's going to be a in flux, and I mean, you're going to see things develop that you that weren't working before. So I suspect that this will be a very tight product very quickly, because there is enough interest in it that the people that are working on it know that. And so right now they're really, and you got to give these fellas credit. I'm not even sure, to be honest with you. I feel embarrassed by this, but I don't exactly know who came up with the Pi Storm and who's working on it. Bo, do you? Have you ever heard who the people are that are behind it?
I think that the Pi Storm is like the Mister. I think it's an open source project that the development community just sort of glommed. There's a Discord channel.
Yeah, I know they're talking about putting it in other computers that have 68,000, or I even heard even possibly in a Mega Drive, stuff like real bizarre stuff. So the sky's the limit for this sort of thing. But it is exciting. Between this, the Buffy, and the various vampires, the vampires got that new low end thing coming out too. So it will be interesting to see what these separate items can do. But one thing they can do is save you some bucks right now.
Yeah.
Because you can get in pretty cheap. And so, but yeah, Neil did a great job. He always does.
Yeah. And that's going to do it for this week's roundup of Amiga news. Why don't we move on down the line, Aaron, and talk a little about Switchblade?
All right, man. The Switchblade. Now, Boat, this game has a really cool name. And so I'm sure at some point in my life I have played it, but I had no recollection of it. Had you ever given this one a spin?
No, I think that I've played Switchblade 2 a long time ago on some random stream. I recall nothing about it. The Switchblade, I know I this one.
Well, I had not played it, so this was my first go around with this one that I remember. I mean, if I had a cup of coffee with it, I don't remember it. So Switchblade released in '89, one disc, and this one came out from Core. Core, very famous, of course, mostly famous for their eventual work on the Tomb Raider series, but they worked on a lot of good Amiga stuff, including the Chuck Rocks, Jag XJ220, and Banshee, which was a very nice shooter, among Rick Dangerous, a bunch of other stuff. This one was coded by Simon Phipps, and he worked on a game that me and you covered a long time ago. Remember Bubba and Sticks boat?
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that. Dragonstone, Monty Python, and the Rick Dangerous games. So he worked on quite a few games. This was his baby. The only other guy that worked on this was Ben Daglish, who did the song for this game, and it is quite a song. Well, it better be, because it play. If you go the music route, you're gonna hear that song a lot.
You're gonna hear it.
Yeah. So, what is this game, Bo? Because of course, this game's you got to have the wackiest of backstories, and this game has a kind of a nutty backstory. It's sort of based, I guess you would say, in the Japanese. Everything I read said this was based on Japanese and Western pop culture, stuff like Akira. Remember?
Yeah, I mean,
we always
this
talk
was
about
obviously,
dystopian future stuff.
Right.
That
Akira
sort of
was
thing.
big. People were looking to capitalize on it.
Have you seen Akira, Boat?
That's not the type of film for me.
Well, I mean, I'm not bad about it. That movie, that show, that comic series and movie gets a lot of praise, and I've seen it multiple times. And I actually even saw the comics before they got turned into that. It was one that I never grasped fully and never enjoyed. In fact, I found watching a movie very disturbing, and so it's but somebody liked it.
I don't want to watch it.
So,
I do like anime, but not this one.
Yeah. So Switchblade takes place in the post-apocalyptic future where the Undercity in the cyber world of Trax has been submerged into chaos and slaughtering with the awakening of Havoc, an evil entity from the 10,000-year-old imprisonment. Once the sacred fire blade shattered into pieces and lost its power, along with the death of the Black Knight's Order. This is directly from the manual. All right, you play Hero. You're the last of the deceased Knight Order, and you go try to restore the blade and defeat Havoc. All right, sounds awesome, sorta. That's a lot going on there. But ultimately, what this really is a game where you play a dude that runs through an underground maze, basically, an underground series of platforms, and tries to go all the way through. I mean, that's ultimately what it is. This isn't a game where you're going to do a lot of, like, there's not a lot of gathering of stuff. This isn't like, there's not a lot of pickups. There are some. There's not tons.
Well,
it's
also,
mostly survival.
You can forget about the backstory because you're not going to interact with any characters. You're not going to talk to anybody. All you're going to do is run through this subterranean area and punch and kick and switchblade different monsters.
Yeah,
that's the game.
That's the game. I mean, really, I would when you think about this game, if you want to boil it down, it's basically a sort of a flip screen platformer where you try not to get killed on every screen. That's the game. So it's pretty much like most flip screen platformers from Europe.
In the fine Euro tradition.
It is. Now, this one does have some wrinkles, okay? And the wrinkles are, and I will say, I'm going to give this game its props, at least here at the beginning. I find the map system, and by that I mean it's not a map, but I find the way the levels lay out very interesting. The flip screen is done quite well in terms of the layout of the building. There's a flow to it. There are secret areas that you can find. Now that's pretty much as good as I can go on that, because right out of the gate, one of the problems with this game is it looks the same throughout. Once you start on the surface, you go underground, you're underground for the rest of the game. And so I hope you like gray stones and girders, because you're going to see those.
I hope you like the color gray in general, because you're going to be seeing gray stones, gray girders, gray enemies. Yes. You are the only thing that has any color in this game.
Mm-hmm. and an occasional explosion. That's about it. It's gray. Secondly, your guy Hero. Listen, I know you rag on Lionheart for his weapon use, but compared to Lion, I mean, this guy is 50,000 times worse and harder to control than the guy from Lionheart. Right out of the gate, the second I grabbed this game and I looked at it, I was like, okay, what am I playing here? My first thought was, how is this a 16-bit game? And my second thought was, who thought this was a good way to move? This is the direction they decided to go with when moving Hero. He looks like a geek and he fights like a dork. This guy, if this guy is a last of a fallen Death Knight clan, that's why they're all dead. Because this guy's a goof. His strikes and stuff suck. Listen, the Lemmings are better at hand-to-hand combat than this guy. All right, he's no good.
I mean, should we talk about the how the game actually does control, because it is quite unique?
Please go in.
All right, so basically you've got a power meter, okay? Not unlike when you're playing R-Type or a shooter like, actually I can never remember if it's R-Type or Gradius, but you've got a power meter, and the longer you hold down the button, the more powerful your attack is. However, also the longer you hold down the button depends on the type of attack that you do. So a punch is just like a barely tapping of the button. Then a kick, a high kick, like a spinning sort of roundhouse kick, I guess, is sort of like when it's halfway up. And then the ultimate attack, they've decided to give the ultimate attack when you pump it all the way up, is the old low leg sweep.
Yeah.
This guy is the only guy on earth whose ultimate attack is the low leg sweep.
You know, fighting in this is like playing trombone. You've sort of got to guess at the position of the bar and hope that you're getting the right note. You know what I'm saying?
And most of the time you're wrong. So it is a lot like playing trombone.
Dude, what did you think about? I mean, when I first started playing this, it took me a while to even figure out what was going on. But the combat system is so weird. I mean, was it just me, or
It's a classic case of somebody in a meeting saying, listen, I've got an idea for a new way to do combat. This is going to change the world. It's going to be great. And somebody gave him the green light, and he did it, and it was not a successful experiment.
Well, let me tell you something. This is going to blow your mind, okay? So let's talk about Simon Phipps. Now, he amongst the other games he worked on were the Rick Dangerous games, which this guy has some Rick Dangerous rolled in there. But this was the first game he ever wrote, okay? And he began for on the ST. He began writing this game, and he wrote it in his spare time. It's like this wasn't mandated by anybody. This was the guy's vision, all right? Mm-hmm. And so while he was working on this, he worked on some other stuff, including the Rick Dangerous games, okay? So this was a game that he worked on like in his off time while he was doing other stuff, okay? And so my guess is, Boat, that this was an attempt, and I'm going to give the guy credit, much like Lionheart. I hate to compare the two, but I will in this case. It was an attempt to have an innovative combat system involving one button. It failed. Yeah. It failed horribly, and I'll tell you why. The fact that there's a trombone-style combat system, that and just the sheer stupidity of that should be obvious. But the big failure is Hero as a character is too small. His kicks and punches are so compact and tiny that you have to let the enemy get right up on you to use them, or you have to be right up on them. And they just suck. They're hard to get off without taking damage.
Here's my big problem. With this. Right. What's the name of this game?
Switchblade, Boat. Cool name.
Okay. Where the heck's the Switchblade at? Why do you have to wait until you're midway through the first level, which is like 20 to 25 minutes if you don't die?
Yeah.
Before you even get a glimpse of the Switchblade. Not having a projectile either right off the bat or very, very soon off the bat kills, because once you get that projectile, the game becomes a lot easier and a lot more fun to play. Otherwise, you're waiting. The bad guys in this game operate on what I like to call the Kung Fu Master level of killing you, in which they just sort of approach you rapidly and then hug you to death.
What I like is you're right, because they will. What's the best thing is when you got one on each side, one's in front of you, and it looks like the other one's just humping your back. And the bad guys, for the most part, there are so few bad guys, which there's only like literally like maybe 4 bad guys and a couple bosses. And the bad guys are sort of like if you combined a snake guy with a fish head. That's what you would get. They look dumb. And they when they move, they sort of pelvic thrust. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, here's the thing. Snake guy with the fish head, I don't think he looks dumb, but he's used in the absolute least cool way possible. Like if you've got a snake head with, the snake guy with the fish head, if he's coming at you, he needs to be firing fireballs out of his eyes. He needs to be doing something but just approaching you to give you a big old hug.
He didn't even attack you. He just touches you. He gets up on you.
He just pelvics you.
You were talking about... You're talking about Love Gravy. That song would be more appropriate than the Daglish number because that's what it feels like. And the fact that what's funny about this game is you're right. They do attack sort of Kung Fu Master style. They're coming up to get you. They can't jump. They can't do anything. So if you're on a ledge above them, you'll get a herd of them just sitting there humping the ledge trying to get to you. If you have to go through,
that until the end of time.
That's right. If you have to go through, let's say you're going the other way, they're up on the ledge and you've got to go past them, you're boned. You got to jump over them and then turn around and hit them or just try to run away. And you can there are plenty of times where you just get surrounded by these things and it's all it is. The hump fest is on and you're just trying to hit and kick as fast as you can.
The AI in this game is, I mean, this is the kind of AI that would be commonplace in an 8-bit game and we wouldn't say anything about it. If this was a Spectrum game, well, okay, maybe we would, but we'd be easier on it. But when you get to 1989 and when you're developing on the freaking Commodore Amiga, you need to have your bad guys do a little something other than just run into the wall when they can't get you. That's no good.
You need more enemies too. This game needs more of everything. It needs more graphics for where you're at. It needs more enemies and putting some armor on a fish guy don't count. You got fish snakes, armored fish snakes, robotic little half guys that come around and like one other thing. There's hardly anything in it, and then that gray, that everlasting gray background. Now, speaking of everlasting,
here's what I want. Here's what I want out of a platformer.
Yeah,
I want a variety of environments. I want a variety of enemies. And I want to feel like I'm in control of the character that I'm controlling.
Yeah.
This game fails on all three counts.
It does. Like, we haven't even talked about that jumping. This guy jumps. I mean, it's like someone filled his pants with cement and said, "Go for it, pal." I mean, this guy's a Death Knight. Are you kidding me? This guy sucks. He sucks as a character once again. Hero, not hardly. But speaking of repetitive, this game opens with an awesome song, the Ben Daglish song, and we know Daglish is a talented musician, programmer, the whole 9 yards, and it's a good song. The problem is this game does the classic. I know you love this, Boat. You get a choice. You get a choice at the beginning of this game. Do you want sound effects or do you want music? Okay, trust me. As much as you like that song, pick sound effects.
You want the sound effects,
because that song is not very long. And it loops and loops, and it never stops. It never stops.
Here's the thing, it's okay to have it's not really okay, but let's say let's say it is okay to have a single music track in a game. Okay, yes. What you want is you want to have a level system so you don't have to beat the whole game in one run. At some point, the music stops and another theme, congratulations, you passed level 1.
No.
And then it cranks up again, but you get none of that.
No.
Did we mention that you have to beat this entire game in one sitting?
Yeah.
There is no saving. There are no level markers. There's
no
bosses. Yeah, there's no levels. There are quote unquote boss characters, which are just sort of like super monsters. Which, by the way, most of the time you have to cheese to beat.
Yeah,
they
take forever.
These bosses make the Hybris bosses look like freaking, the end boss on some sort of like Castlevania.
Listen, you're ragging on Hybris.
These guys are so dumb.
Yeah,
Hybris is a great game, but the bosses are not great.
No, the bosses are fine. You just can't get far enough to see the good ones. But don't compare Hybris to this. I'm insulted by that. Listen, the bosses suck in this. And when you look at this game and you look at it, you look at the hero, you look at the fighting system, and you think to yourself, what kind of boss would be in this game? That's what's in it. A lumbering idiot that goes brr, brr, back and forth or up and down, and he shoots spread shots, and you have to leap around like an idiot, shooting whatever pathetic little crap weapon you've got to try to kill this thing. You have to hit him 3 million times. Screw that. That's not a boss. That's just an irritant. Is what that is. No good. So let's summarize, Boat. Controls that stink, check. An idiotic hero that can't hurt anyone because he looks like a geek? Check. Repetitive enemies? Check. The exact same backgrounds for every level because there are no levels? Check. Crap bosses? Check. A never-ending song? Check. What's that equal? A big stinkeroo. That's what that equals, Boat. I'm giving this one my lowest rating ever. 2 thumbs down. Stink. So I can't even go in. There's no reason to go any further. Did you find anything redeeming about this aside from the cool way that the map opens up?
As I was playing this, I thought to myself, it is very rare that we play a game with no redeemable qualities whatsoever.
Right.
I will say that this is not the worst controlling game I've ever played in my life, but the combination of all the factors, all of the things that are just horrible, like all of the worst things you could do in a platforming game are present in this game, except for the level design. You know, like you said, the rooms do have a flow.
They have that sort of fog of war where they kind of open up.
I like the way, like in some games, they only show you a little bit of the room because they're doing the old giant HUD routine.
Yeah.
But in this game, that's not the case. I mean, they're doing a fog of war type thing, which is cool. But that really makes no difference to the actual game you're playing at all.
Yeah.
You know, whether you can see the whole part of the screen or not is really irrelevant to any part of the game. So I, of course, am going to give this also 2 thumbs down. I don't think it's completely irredeemable, but I do think that you have to have a healthy dose of nostalgia of playing this when you were a kid to get any sort of joy out of this whatsoever.
Wrong. Irredeemable. Irredeemable. Completely irredeemable. Here's what baffles me about this. So get this. Given what we've said about it, this thing got ported all over the place. Of course, the original version on the ST, C64, the Spectrum got a port of this sucker. Listen, this thing got stuck over on the Amstrad GX 4000. Isn't that the wacky console? You know, baffling. And now here's one that really, I was looking through the wiki and I found a guy playing this video of this. Some goose actually ported this to modern systems to sell it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
No. What was that? So this.
Here's the thing. Let me tell you a little bit about the Switchblade fan community out there.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I got to meet this guy.
Okay, so there are these Pico Interactive is this company that takes basically my personal take on this is they find the cheapest licenses they can find.
Yeah.
That have any sort of fond remembrances of from the fan community, and they say, hey, we're bringing it back and we're putting it out on machines that didn't get it the first time. So what Pico did was they actually put this out on both the Mega Drive and the Jag, Aaron. If you think that Switchblade is awesome on the Amiga, try it out on the Jag.
Oh, man.
Now, in addition to this, they also put out some action figures for Switchblade, okay? So, here's the deal. They wanted, let's see. I'm trying to find exactly how much they wanted. I know this, Aaron. They raised almost $10,000 from this Kickstarter campaign, okay? And it was funded. However, it was funded in 2019.
Yeah.
Guess what?
What?
Their last post, which was in 2019, says, big announcement, problem with action figure.
Oh, man.
So
the problem
this might have been one of the ones where people got screwed.
Just calling this guy, just the fact that Hero could have an action figure, that's impossible because he has little to no action in the game. So they have to just make up poses for him to put it. First of all, the fact that got funded shows you that there's a sucker born every minute. I watched the guy review the updated version, like it was on the Genesis, and it was so bugged that he had to just stop playing it. It was too bugged, and he gave this the unbridled thumbs down too. And I thought to myself, listen, pal, unless you just bought this for review purposes, you should give yourself thumbs down for being dumb enough to buy it in the first place. Surely, have you not played it before? All the games that were made for the Jag and the Genesis, and you go import this? Are you kidding me?
Sort of weird.
No, that's not the word I would use.
I'll tell you the ultimate weird, crazy mind freak thing about this. This was developed by Core Design.
I know.
The same team that brought you Tomb Raider. All kinds of great games. So I don't know if there was a major sea change in development at Core. Maybe they fired everybody on staff.
Now wait a minute.
And they hired new guys.
We covered a Core game a month or two ago that was also a big dud. And I remember thinking the same. Remember, we had the same conversation. It was either me and you or me and Brent, where I was like, "Wow, what was Core smoke when they put this out?" So guess what? It looks like Core. Yeah, they did Tomb Raider, did some good stuff, but they also are very noteworthy of putting out garbage. So there you go. Now, we mentioned that this got ported over for the Atari. For your edification, we've done a little port comparison here, so you can experience the beauty of this game on the Atari. And guess what? It is the exact same game. I mean, there was nothing changed at all. It looks the same. It sounds the same. Bo, I gotta ask you, did you try playing this with just the sound effects on?
Yeah,
at all?
yeah.
What did you think about that?
Better.
What did you think about the Bruce Lee Kung Fu style kiosks that were?
Listen, I have a feeling that by the time they were adding in the sound effects, they knew what they were dealing with this game, and we've played a lot of action games where the sound effects just recently have just been horrible, and it's just people get these libraries of sound effects. They find some random kung fu guy, and they're like, yeah, that sounds like a karate chop. Let's put that in. So it's another example of why you need to have good sound design, whether it's your sound effects or your music. You need to have things that complement each other. But as it's been proven time and time again, Amiga gamers were just not interested in they didn't buy. And it's not that they weren't interested. They didn't buy games based on the sound design. Maybe the title track, which we know from the Bitmap Brothers, the title track was everything. But the actual in-game sound effects, I don't think that wasn't number one on the list.
I hate to beat a dead horse here, but I'm not done yet, okay? I've read this everywhere when I was researching this game, all right? This game was inspired from pop culture, Akira, Blade Runner, Mad Max, the Wild Boys music video. I saw it said a couple times, of all things. That Duran Duran song. Post-apocalyptic, blah, blah, blah. What in this game, let's say you burnt the manual and you didn't watch the god-awful intro, right? What in this game screams post-apocalyptic anything? What in this game, where's the Wild Boys video influence? Where's the Akira influence? What the hell are they talking about here is what I'm saying. This was influenced by getting paid.
I have a feeling that Core Design PR typed that up and sent that to all the media news
Phipps
outlets, and they just
co-founded Core Design. Do you realize that? He's not just some jabroni. He co-founded it, Boat.
Yeah.
Duh. Now, this was his first game. And listen, I don't want to, normally we don't kill a game. All right. I hate to kill a game. And I appreciate people that work on games. I know it's hard, okay? But I don't understand. And here's something else. We didn't even touch on this. You can pick up bonus letters throughout this game. What the hell's that doing in there?
Again, this is a holdover. This is a holdover from the 8-bit mentality. This guy, he made the Rick Dangerous games. He still was living in that world where you collect letters to spell words to get extra stuff.
But I mean, has bonus and extra ever appeared in a game in a more unusual and odd place than this? You're picking up bonus?
Probably not.
That's weird.
But again, I really believe that this game, because obviously this guy, he'd done games before. The idea is that you write a game that's easy to port to as many systems as possible, because that half or more of everybody that plays this game is going to pirate it. So you need to make sure and spread out the ports to as many systems as you can to capture as many dollars as you can.
But this was his first game, though. This was his first game.
He made Rick Dangerous before this.
No, he made it during this. That's what I was saying.
Oh,
he was working on this before he worked on anything else. So I would have forgiven him for that.
If I was looking at it from the perspective of a developer in the 80s, especially in Europe, I would say, okay, I'm going to design a game that I know I can port pretty much note for note to any system that's available at the time. And that's basically what this is. If you fire up the ZX Spectrum version of Switchblade, it looks and plays and feels almost identical to the Amiga version. I mean, obviously the Amiga version has more colors, and by more colors I mean more shades of gray.
Yeah, I was going to say more color.
But everything is there. The power meter is there, the extra, the bonus, all of that stuff is there.
Well, listen, let's go over the reviews on this thing, Bode, because we've got some here. I looked at Lemon and the rest of the just because I'm dying. I was like, this was released, or it's when the Amiga was still sort of rock and roll, and let's see how they did. Lemon, the people in Lemon, the fine folks, gave this a 7.27. Amiga Action 80%, Amiga Computing 90. That stuns me. Amiga format 85. Amiga Joker work take any crap 69 on this thing. Amiga Power 3 out of 5, and the one here. Check this out, Bo. The one gave this a 5 out of 5. Boat. Anyway, average magazine rating 81%. Now, was this? Here's the thing about this game. Was this game as bad as the worst games we've ever played on this show? No. Okay, no. I've killed it. It does tons wrong. All right, but it is a somewhat playable game. But is it a fun game? The answer is a resounding no. Did we get any discords on this?
We did. Super Famiking writes, I was a big fan of this first time around and haven't played it in 30 years. Imagine my surprise when it still holds up well. I always loved the faux anime style of the game, and the maze-like levels still prove a challenge now, if a slightly frustrating one. The graphics are excellent, the sound is good too, and the controls are fine, although the punch move isn't always the easiest to pull off. My old man skills must have deteriorated, as I found the game a lot tougher than I remembered. As far as platforming action goes on the Amiga, this one will entertain newcomers and veterans alike. 7 out of 10.
Who wrote that?
Super Famiking.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I want a mental note. Keep going.
Dave Velociraptor writes, if you hated Rick Dangerous because it was a memory game, then you may like this better. It's not perfect, but it's still very good. 8 out of 10.
What? Did we review a different game? What?
And finally, Lord Soup writes, wear your They Live glasses, not your rose-tinted Ray-Bans. 5 out of 10. Back in the day, I loved this game, but it's super awkward now. I will say this, Aaron.
Oh,
I will say
go. Okay, I'm waiting. Go ahead.
In the land of flip-screen platformers, the one-eyed hero is king. This is a game that you can play and get pretty far without having to spend insane amounts of time memorizing each screen. This is not one of those type of games.
Wait a minute. I don't agree with that either. Because randomly spikes shoot up. All the opponents just appear in front of you.
When randomly spikes show up, do you immediately die?
But you take a hit. What about the random spawning of enemies?
You only have one life in this game.
Listen.
This game is much more forgiving than any of those games. And for that, I give it props, because those type of games, maybe you like flip screen platformers, but you don't like feeling like death all the time, okay? This could be the game for you. I enjoy this way more than Jet Set Willie or Manic Miner. Those type of games are they're the very core of everything I hate about video games.
No, I don't agree with that. Listen, we covered a game on Atari earlier that came out, I think, 5 years prior to this, Montezuma's Revenge. That game is so beyond this one, it's almost overwhelming. It's almost as graphically good, and it crushes it everywhere else.
And you're not wrong about that. But again, that's not the same kind of game as your Monty Mole or your
neither one of these games are like neither of the games are like that. All I'm
saying is that in the world of flip screen platformers, this you could probably do worse.
Listen, your argument is stepping on a tack hurts less than stepping on a nail. It still sucks.
It still sucks.
Let's call a spade here. It sucks. Spawning enemies right on top of you as you run through them, that stinks. It's having the spike trap crap that comes right out. Listen, this ain't Dragon's Lair, pal. It ain't Dragon's Lair. Dud. I can't imagine why anybody would have wanted to play this one. I will not play it again. Now, I've heard Switchblade 2 is better, and so that one I'll be willing to give a shot, but I am out of the Switchblade business unless you're talking about these bad boys. Then I'm always in.
All right, Aaron. We leave Switchblade now.
Yeah, get the hell out of there.
Move on to other things. Why don't we check out what's been going on over in the YouTube channel for the past couple weeks?
Oh my gosh, Bode, are you kidding me? It's a cornucopia of good stuff, Bode. So the last time we checked in was was way back at $2.99. So we're just gonna breeze through some of this stuff. Myself and the Brent did a very fun ARG Presents last week, and it was on management games, non-sports related management games, Bode. We had a good time with this one, man, and I really enjoyed it. We covered Aero Biz on the SNES, and we covered Franchise on the Coco, a game I never heard of. Have you played that SNES game? Surely you've played that, the Aerobiz.
No, I always heard that Aerobiz Supersonic was great, and I actually didn't even know that playing Aerobiz was a game, but I never played either. I did try and fire it up briefly just to see if I could get in a review, but it's not a game that you just fire up briefly.
No,
you gotta
it
put
is
some
not.
time.
No, it's not. Boat, we did a 1200 XL episode a while back, and this time out, we looked at one of my perennial favorites, Archon, Boat. Archon. Yeah. Love this. So what were your thoughts on this one?
Archon, a great melding of the action and strategy genre, probably the earliest example of a game that managed to do both well.
Yeah.
It's a game that is just as fun now as it was back in the day.
Yeah.
And this is one that I never ever played growing up, so I was glad to check it out.
I'm surprised you ever played that because it was a real big deal back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, we'll be looking at Speed coming up on our next R. Sinclair, and so Boat did a playthrough on it here if you want to check that out. I did another, I took one of our Friday night streams and just flipped it over, and this is even more Amiga games you've not heard of. This did pretty well, Boat, and I'll have to say, there were a ton of Amiga games here that I'd never played before, and I mean, this is some real oddball stuff this time out. I don't know if you got to check this out yet, but we had a good time.
I watched some of this. And yeah, I'm always thrilled at the things that you find in this game.
Yeah. Well, usually the chat's just screaming stuff out. Let's talk about our good buddy Flack. Now, again, this would have been from last week. Flack played random games. Actually, I watched some of the stream, and when he says he played random games, he ain't kidding. He played a bunch of I believe he just picked. We know that game. That one's not random. That one's Hero.
Yeah.
But Jack always has the good stuff on this show. I love his streams. He always has little stories and stuff to go along. So I highly recommend checking out the Flackster on that one. Here we go. I believe this is a Hermsky joint. It is. And this is the Golden Apple Adventure E walkthrough on the ZX. And this is this looks like another one of the text adventure go-throughs with the Hermsky. I like to put these on and just listen to them. And I'll sit back and read through them while he's playing. Very relaxing stuff. The Golden Apple Boat.
Yeah.
So if you're into that sort of thing, give it a go. Hermsky is the master of the text game. There's no doubt about that. Plus, my God, he's beat a lot of these on tape. He's been doing a lot of these. Our good buddy Frodo. Here's one, Boat. This is you gotta give Frodo credit. 24 different versions of Frogger on 20 systems, which means a few systems had multiple copies of Frogger. This was at 2.5 hours of Frogger. I love the name of this. Let's try to save Kermit. So I have not got to see this yet, but you can be darn sure I'm going to have to watch it because I love Frodo's stuff and I love Frogger. We were just talking about Frogger earlier because Parker Brothers did a lot of Froggers. And I'm sure, look at that. Look how fancy that is.
That looks great.
Holy smokes. So that looks real nice. There's when you've got 24 different versions of Frogger, you're going to see some crazy stuff. We're just trying to flip through the video here. And some of them look good, some of them look bad, and some of them look real bad. So there you go.
I think that's the Cocoa version, isn't
I think it looks the color palette
with the
dragon.
Wonderful blood red road.
Yeah, listen, it is what it is, Boat. Of course, I'm sure you joined us last week for our 300th Amigas. If you'd like to go back and re-experience that. This past week on ARG, we did Animal Protagonists, Boat. This is one, of course, you were just killing Monty on the Run, but I covered Monty on the Run for my Animal Protagonist. And actually, I really like this game. I had a lot of fun with it, and I like Monty as a character. I also like this guy knows how to jump, by the way. This is a full front flip Boat, and he's a freaking mole. The ninja can't do that.
Yeah.
No, it's not Roy. It's nothing like Dizzy. It's way more like Jet Set Willie, except I liked it way better. And then
I'm just talking about the jump. Jet Set Willie doesn't flip.
Yeah. Now the Brent got way out in left field and picked a Lion for DOS. This is sort of an edutainment title, Boat, that simulates life as a lion through various scenarios. There's all sorts of on disc. Documentary footage and like all sorts of facts. I learned a lot about lions.
This was when this came out in '95, And if you look at the box art, this is when the world was obsessed with white and purple. I have so much software from 95 that was around that. It was when Windows, it was right before Windows 95. And Microsoft, all of their stuff was purple and white, all of their edutainment type stuff. And this looks like something that I probably would have been given as a gift at some point.
Yeah.
To play on the new computer, because this came out the same year that we finally got our first modern computer.
Yeah.
And like you said on the show, you learned stuff about lions.
Have
when
you
played
this one, Bode?
No, I've never played this, and I've never played Wolf either.
Yeah, Wolf was the predecessor to this, and I'd also played that one. I'd played that one more. But I mean, listen, is this thing going to reinvent the wheel? No. But I mean, in terms of a lion simulator, it's kind of neat. And the lion's affected by like the seasons and where the game is come and gone, the dryness of the land. They put a lot of thought into it. You could actually play this and learn something. Like I could put the kid in front of this one. So there you go. So if you're into ARG Presents, I think you might enjoy that one. Here's a crazy one, Boat. It's a Coco show where me and you get together and play a little Springster, man.
Yeah.
This is a game you don't hear that much about, isn't it? I mean, I don't hear a whole lot about Springster, and it's kind of how would you describe this to the layperson?
Yeah, I would say that we've done 21 episodes. We just recorded episode 21 of the Coco Show.
Yeah.
And for like half of those, we inexplicably decided to do 2 games on each episode. So we've done probably close to 40 games on the Coco. This is the most original game that I think we've done in terms of its mechanics. I mean, it's really unlike almost everything else out there.
It has its pluses and minuses. I like the game, but it's the kind of game where you're going to want to have the manual sitting right beside the desk so you can remember what all these different colors do. That's what I had to do. I had to open it up on another monitor. But it really is. For anyone that thinks this looks like Crystal Castles or Marble Madness, it's nothing like either of those. And it's very much its own unique game. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, you're seeing something you haven't seen before, check out Springster on the Coco Show. We had a lot of fun with that one. And I was sort of pleasantly surprised on that one, Bode. I'll be honest with you. Of course, we've got the Patreon band's performance from, I believe this is from Amigos 300 here. If you want to go back and relive the magic. And speaking of reliving the magic, Boat, by popular demand, Boat, and I mean that sincerely. People demanded, and so I'm the kind of person that will oblige the people. And so it is Boat of Cars Musical Gauntlet. This is the extended.
I love the thumbnail that you made for this. I had no idea what I was doing.
I can tell you, I knew the thumbnail was going to be I was going to use that someday, but I had to find the right thing. Remember in the Hook episode where you're crowing?
Oh yes,
that is where that thumbnail is from. And I knew when I saw that, I'm like, well, I knew instantly before I even started making it. But this is a extended version of the highlight reel of Boat singing from the episode 300. So if you really want to test yourself, you could sit through this long 8 minutes. This has an additional like 3 minutes of audio, and trust me, the additional 3 minutes, it's all you singing. There are no bits in here. It's just extended versions of you singing. So if you want to pay the ultimate price, and it looks like a few people have taken up the challenge here. I know someone sat down. Here it is, Ricky DeRocher. He watched the whole video without pausing and the volume at max. There's the bar.
He's the ultimate winner.
He was later checked into an insane asylum. So if you want to check out Boat of Cars Musical Gauntlet, it is available right now. And I've got a couple extended blooper reels I'll probably put up at somewhere down the line. Now, Boat, you talked to me about this. I haven't got to watch this yet. Fill us in on this next video. Amazing PDF dungeon crawler. What's the scoop on this, Boat?
If you know anything about me, you know that I hate dungeon crawlers.
That's true.
And it comes down to the exact same complaints that I have about bad platformers. When I play a game, I want to experience a variety of settings. I want to see a variety of enemies, and I want to feel like I'm in control. When I play a game like Dungeon Master, I get none of those things. I'm in a dark, dank, stupid dungeon. I've got all of these. You're walking around the same quarters. Now, I will say Dungeon Master does have a variety of enemies, so I can't totally bury Dungeon Master as much as I'd like to.
Yeah, it's also awesome.
But then the control, because it's a weird mix of real time and pointing at buttons on a screen with your mouse, that's no good. I don't like that. This game I love. This is a game that is it's a 200,000 page PDF. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you quote unquote run this game, you basically just launch the PDF in whatever PDF reader you want. Okay. And the game is a series of links that basically it turns it into a dungeon crawler type game. However, there are links like when you click on the link to the music notes, it launches a web browser which plays a song. So you actually have atmospheric music that's playing along while you play. Again, that's another big thing that I like having is having some real nice atmospheric music. And the last thing that I like is that there is there's mapping in this. There's automatic mapping. So wherever you go, if you click on the little eye, you get the map. You also get a view of your person and whatever you're carrying and stuff. So a lot of people that are really into dungeon crawlers probably won't think this is the greatest game ever because it is sort of on the simple side. But for a player like you can see, I accidentally scrolled with the mouse and went to another page of the PDF. It is. I really, really enjoyed my time with this, and this is one that I'm going to come back to. It's called Undying Dusk. It's available for the old name your own price on itch.io. I can't recommend. As somebody that hates dungeon crawlers, this is the type of game that would make me love dungeon crawlers.
I gotta say, this is very clever in the mode. Someone effectively made a massive graphical choose your adventure and a PDF form.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
With hot links. And the fact that this thing has mapping tells you that. I wonder how many screens, how many pages of this PDF are devoted to every conceivable position on the map to keep that all. I mean, the mind boggles at the team that put this together.
It's one guy. One guy did this,
and the graphics and stuff. I assume he rendered everything. It's it blows your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah,
because you could easily
very impressive.
You could put this on like you could put this on like an Amiga or an ST or something and say, look at this new game. And people would buy it. And they wouldn't even know, because it's remarkable. It's truly remarkable, Bode. I'd say that.
Yeah.
That is
neat.
And
Delamort and Olaf Hope are both talking about this is very similar to classic Mac games. The Mac used a development language called HyperCard, in which you basically
that's where Myst sprung from, right?
And it's the same sort of deal. It's the same sort of branching pathway sort of deal. So this is an evolution of that, I guess you could say. But yeah, Undying Dusk, check it out.
That's super duper clever. I can't tell you how impressed I am with that. So, our buddy Flack, and I did catch this just the other night. Flack plays basketball. Because of course, the NBA playoffs have begun, or they just had the play-ins, and the playoffs are currently going on. So Flack goes in and gets himself a little one-on-one action before he goes down and plays some of this street sports basketball. I like this one because you actually pick your team. I remember I'd forgotten about that. So from a bunch of kids, I will say Flack has an incredibly exciting game of one-on-one with a buzzer beater ending. I won't spoil it for you, but it's very exciting. This was a good time. I highly recommend you check this one out. I watched this one, and we had a lot of fun.
It's funny. I believe, Aaron, we've done 301 episodes of Amigos. I believe we've only covered one basketball game in 301 episodes. We did TV sports, and I think that was it.
Well, guess what? That's the only one you need to cover because that's the ipso facto top of the heap when it comes to the Amiga basketball. Here's one, Boat. And if you've, this will be familiar if you listen to our buddies over at Pixel Gaiden. Tim Drew worked out a deal. He spun the wheel, he made a deal, and he made a deal with our buddy 48K Ram, the master Atari streamer. And what they've done here, Boat, is they actually swapped, International Amiga swap, Boat. And they've got them, they both actually opened their Amigas on camera. I believe, yes, it was a Amiga 3000 that 48K swapped to Tim Drew, and Tim Drew swapped over a 1200 for Josh Malone, or AKA 48K Ram. This was also taped for a segment on their show, Pixel Guide In, so you could also listen to it in the audio form. Good stuff. Hey, we've got 48K in the room. You got that right. It's news, pal. Anytime there's an International Amiga swap, we're there. And by God, we're going to cover it. So there you go. I will say, 48K Run had the proud pappy of a new Amiga 1200. I expect a lot more Amiga content on that Atari show. 48K in the near future. So good stuff there. Bo, would you swap a 1200 for a 3000? You think that's a good deal?
If I got the 3000, yes. The
he's saying
3000 is the only Amiga that I'm even remotely interested in owning.
He says he got a 1200 and a 500 plus. They doubled down.
That makes
that's
more
a better
sense.
deal. Yeah, that's a better deal. 500 plus. You don't see those around these parts too much, do you, Boatster?
No.
Very good. So wacky antics going on. Here's another one from the Hermster. The Eye of Bane. Look at that. You know, these games he plays have the coolest names. This looks like a graphical text adventure game here, Boat. I think. Well, it's got graphics. I think it's got limited graphics. At least there was a screenshot there. Although I'm failing to see any graphics.
I think that might have been it.
Oh no, there's a little something there at the very beginning. You get a little something there. I guess that's the loading screen. How clever! That's how they get you. Eh?
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Look at the Temple of Bane. If my acolytes built a temple that looked like that, they'd be getting smited big time. That looks like a White Castle. That they.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was just going to say that.
Who's worshiping in there? You know? So, but anyway, this is Hermsky back for some more. My gosh, Hermsky, I don't know where he digs these things up. I'm going to, we haven't covered a text adventure for a long time, Boat. Really, we only did the one.
That way.
Those
are difficult to review because they normally take 5 to 10 years to work through.
Well, we also aren't talented, so there's that.
Yes.
Hermsky, I'm assuming he's probably beat most of these, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Well, he's got the gift, as we say.
Anyways, again, if you want to go watch some hot text on text action, check out the Hermster playing Eye of Bane, Boatster. And lastly, but not least, let's talk about our good buddy, the Froadster, Frodo NL. This time out, the first year. Oh, I gotta watch this. The first year of the Sinclair ZX81. Now, I love the ZX81, and one of the benefits of having the old Mister is that it runs. In fact, the ZX Next Core runs all the ZX81 stuff perfectly, Bo. Never had a problem. And when me and the Brent covered the ZX81, I found quite a few games in there that were pretty good, man. I thought there was some good stuff. Look, Bo, your favorite is loading through there, but I mean, I thought they had. I was surprised, frankly, how much good stuff. Much in the same way I was surprised by the TRS-80 Model 1 and 3 stuff. They were making pretty good games even back in the earliest days, weren't they, Bode?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and the ZX81 is very impressive just because it is such a low spec device.
It is.
I mean, it is. It was about as low as you could get on the consumer front when it was released, but it was also as cheap as you can get.
Yeah,
I believe that it retailed for less than £100. So
one of the things I like about the Euro computers I mean, they really were made as cheaply as possible, and so when you look at them, they just look so dinky. So you don't expect them to be able to do anything, and when they do stuff, you're stunned. Right. You know, for God's sakes, they're doing that was doing 3D a minute ago. I mean, it's quite amazing. And
exactly.
Frodo goes through. This is 3 hours of the first year. So I bet God only knows what he uncovers in 3 hours' time on the first year of the X81. That's a must-watch, in my opinion. That is a must-watch right there. And Frodo knows how to do it up. So there you go. I think that takes care of us, Boat. I think we're caught up. Did you and the Neilster get anything done in the last couple weeks?
So we took last week off, and we actually talked about, but I think that, we didn't talk about this. If you check out our latest episode, we talked about the return of Apogee, Aaron. Do you remember Apogee from back in the day?
I do remember Apogee. They did a lot of games I would download on BBSs and whatnot.
Yeah. So they were sort of the kings of shareware. Well, they've relaunched themselves as a publisher, and they're open for business. And we discussed whether it was actually wise for people to even go to publishers anymore, since you can actually self-publish so easily and get your own name out there. So we talked about that. We talked about the Super Potato, one of the largest retailers of classic video games in Japan. That's the first story of the week. Getting an online store on eBay, and we talked about just how, in general, prices on everything have gone through the roof.
How expensive is that online Super Potato? But did you guys look into that?
Oh yeah, I mean they want. I mean, for stuff now. Keep in mind, I was in Japan last in like 2008, so it's been a while since I've been in Japan. But I remember getting games like sort of like common, like I bought like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy 6 for the Super Nintendo Complete in box, I guarantee you I paid less than $10 or 10,000, be 1,000 yen a piece for them. And they want 5 times that now. Now Super Potato is sort of famous for being expensive, so that might have something to do with it. But anyway, then we also talked about the supersized Game Boy. This is a playable
the Game Man.
It kind of looks like a hardback book that has been turned into a Game Boy.
Yeah.
And just sort of a wacky thing. Again, how do we, we choose the stories that we talk about. They're the most upvoted stories on the This Week in Retro subreddit. So sometimes we get really, really wacky stuff like the Game Man.
I like the Game Man. You could clearly beat a man to death with that thing. What size batteries that they take?
Listen, you probably need to hook it up to a car battery.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
Did you see the size of the battery holder on that? It was like, it's to scale, that's for sure. Pretty wacky stuff there, Bode, I gotta say. But yeah, it looks good.
So anyway, we are back on the charge. You can look for a new episode of This Week in Retro. It will actually be out by the time you hear this. It will debut tomorrow morning.
Very good, Bode. Very good. I think that's all we've got video-wise, Bode. We ran through them there. Please stop by our channel, Amigos Retro Gaming on YouTube. Check us out. Like I said, we've got tons and tons of good stuff there. A lot of people provide some really solid, unique content, Bode.
Absolutely. All right, Aaron. It's time. It's time for this week's thank yous. Okay, we're going to start with our Twitch subscribers. You can subscribe to the show on Twitch. At twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming. If you like to watch the show live, we do it every Friday around 5 o'clock. And if you subscribe to Amazon Prime, you get 1 free Twitch sub a month. You can give that to us, and it costs you nothing, and it helps benefit our channel financially. We want to thank all the fine folks that subscribe to us on Twitch, including Macintosh Librarian, Mitsuyama, Pints and Amiga, Blue Jellyfish, Eeyore4077, Krabs MTG, Frodo NL, Chronosnet, Sigurd de Boer, Tinmark, Arctic Cube, Negsol, R-Typer, Zorny J, Peeplo, Scumboy, Retro Jerry, Allrom, Jason Warrens, Beach Bum 7, Uber Scuba Diver, Super Famiking, Jigglebox, Lord Soup, Jost 80, Chris Edwards, Restoration, Captain Chaos DK, Amy Steph, The Slow Norris, Still Adolescing, Matt Dufort, RetroRewind.ca, Amiga Live, Dave Velociraptor, JCave DK, Buck Owens, Edvin Helland, John Marshall 3, XSplit Blop, Gary Heather. Thank you guys for subscribing to us on Twitch.
Before you move on, you mentioned something in there, Chris Edwards. He actually put out a couple videos this week. I didn't get him in the news in time, but there's one that I thought you would enjoy, Bode. He drives like a 8-hour round trip to pick up an Amiga 1000, and he filmed the trip. And
oh wow, we got to talk about that one next week for sure.
It is dopey, yeah. So we'll get into that next week, but check those out; they're up now.
And of course, we want to thank our one and only French Canadian representative Laurent Giroux for choosing Switchblade for us. And last week's Patreon song challenge, Aaron, was Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic by The Police. Lots of correct responses, including Rob, Flack, O'Hara, #1 with a bullet, Scumboy, Hermsky, Dave Velociraptor, Duncan Styles, L, Curtis Boyle, Mitsuyama, Matthew Perron, Jigglebox, Pack Billy, Eric Nelson, Zorglub, Level Lord's Wife, Gary Heather, and R-Typer.
Level Lord's Wife got it. I apologize to her. Well done, Mrs. Lord.
All right, and we want to welcome, we have some new supporters this week, Aaron. We want to welcome Matthew Mobius and the Phantom Magnus to the Amigos family.
They both have cool guy names, but I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, here we go with the newest Patreon song. So if you know this song, send me an email at john@amigospodcast.com, and I will announce you as the winner on next week's show.
Here we go.
Set Yates, Alistair, B. Christian Russo, David C. George Rose, and Steve. Crabtree, Super rolling the Captain Monster, just a zombie. Dave Caron, Allen, Kevin, Checote, Level Lord, John Marshall, Matthew Perron, Rosa, Creepy Dead Boy, ACDC, Stone of X, Stephen Sorgon Mortensen.
Alrighty, holy smokes!
All right.
What do you have to say for yourself, Boat?
Well, it's funny. Somebody, some people in the chat were like, "Why is he standing like that?" And if you know the song, it was actually Lobsterminator's request that I sing it precisely in that way. I have a feeling that the people that were asking about that are not familiar with this particular group. Maybe it's a little beyond them.
I think Lobsterminator's into some weird stuff, but
Lobsterminator isn't this weird stuff. He's freaky. He's freaky.
There you go.
But I want to thank the living legend, Graham W. Vebke, and Lobsterminator for joining me on that musical journey. And, of course, I want to thank all the fine folks that have joined us in chat this evening. So, let's see. Who do we have here with us here? We have quite a crowd. We've got, of course, Duncan Styles and Pixels at Dawn are with us. Tinmark, Amiga Live, Arnix68, Atten, Barkbit, Bike Me, Bitstorm, Brock 101, Buck Owens, Canadian Retro Things, Cobrian, Commander Root, Cowbird Boy, Dave Velociraptor, Delamort78, Edmund Helland, Eor4077, Efficacies, Frodo NL, Hermsky, Level Lord, Jason Warns, JCaveDK, Johnny Renegade, L. Curtis B, Leaf Kellon. I'm sorry, Leaf. I mispronounce your name every single time. Leif Kellon. Mitsuyama, Oram, Olav Hope, Picard 2010, Retro Rewind.ca, Rob, Flack O'Hara, Tom Toms, TMX Twitcher, BNK, Vigoro Pros, X Blip Blop, and Z9K9. Thank you guys so much for joining us in the chat.
Yeah, thanks, y'all.
All right. So, and it's funny. I always enjoy the people that don't know the song, they're like, that's the most obscure thing that I've ever heard. And then the people that do, they're like, that's the easiest song I've ever heard. It never fails.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I didn't know it. I will say that.
Yeah, it is. This was not. I will say this. This was not a single. This was an album cut, but it was one of the biggest albums of the decade that it was released. So, all right. Next week, Aaron, we're out of the platforming realm and we're in to the simulation realm. Normally, that sends a shiver down my spine, but next week's game, Aaron, is Sim freaking City.
Wow, it's amazing we haven't covered that after all these episodes, Boo. That's astounding.
I know. Hermsky, thank you for suggesting this and saving us from some of those other titles that were a part of the AGSC selection process that were making my blood run cold with their complexity. So,
I don't know. SimCity's got a complex. I think I've played it a couple times and didn't know what was going on. So maybe I could learn. I learned Populous too. Maybe I can learn this.
You did.
Yeah,
I think you can. All right, guys. We will see you next week. Until then,
adios.